You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years. So the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com. And for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. So a huge shout out to Governor Anatoby for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my two pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my two golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Citizens Bank's where I bank. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma. Mike Hearn here, host, back with another episode. Today it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our guest, music director of the Oklahoma Philharmonic, Mr. Alexander Mickelthwate. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
So you've been here since 2018, which is really, it goes by super fast. I'm sure it has for you as well. We're 6 years later, you've been here, and most people obviously will see you on stage or might have seen your face on the side of a bus back in the day. We're going to get to all that, but excited to dive into your story. You're originally from Germany.
I'm very German. I'm having a German accent, I think. I always ask people what they think I am from, and some say Sweden, some, I guess, Austria. But then I always joke that it's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger strong, Yeah. So, yes, definitely grew up in Germany.
Okay.
Everybody still lives there except me. I'm the black sheep.
Okay.
Like you, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. We share that, definitely. We're probably the ones that got away, I guess, or the ones that managed to get out. Do you grow up a huge sports fan or not?
Well, I loved soccer.
Okay. It's kind of a rite of passage, right?
It's kind of the thing, but I never played in a soccer club. There was a different level of, professionalism. Mm-hmm. But every day we played soccer field. We watched the whole soccer World Cup, of course, and I was Eintracht Frankfurt. They always lost, unfortunately, my own home team. So at some point one switches to Bavaria, to Bayern München.
Which they did very well.
They did very well.
Yeah.
Hoping that they then win over you guys.
Yeah.
Over there.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I still love it. I'm one of those guys who loves, even if it's 90 minutes of no goal, I just enjoy the back and forth, and I can see the beauty in beautiful, like a kick, like the bend him like Beckham kind of thing. Oh my God, that was so beautiful. Yeah. That's my kind of aesthetic.
Yeah, that's... People listening who have watched football or soccer, to most people listening, they don't understand that though, because we've grown up watching that, right? We've grown up watching 90 minutes of 0-0 games, but seeing beautifully crafted passes from across the field. You mentioned Beckham. I'm trying to think of the, is it Sebastian Schweinsteiger?
Yeah, Schweinsteiger.
Schweinsteiger. He was like when I'm 34, so I'm like Man United 90s, kind of thinking that time. Michael Ballack.
Ballack, yes.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Great teams. I mean, and Germany won the World Cup multiple times, right?
They won it in 1990, I guess. It's such a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then I think in 2014 or somewhere there, I actually saw Beckham one more time about the English team in with the LA Galaxy.
Oh, wow.
In 2014, 15, 16.
Yeah.
And I remember so distinctly. I was, first of all, really excited. I mean, in America, it's, I don't know, I don't know the team, but he did this corner shot, and man, just that beautiful, it was art. It was like the Mona Lisa and Beckham doing that beautiful bent corner shot, like precision, like a surgeon, a heart surgeon. That's how beautiful it felt. And I'll never forget that.
Seeing it live, right? Seeing him in the moment doing it.
Yeah.
Box tick in the live bucket, right? Things you want to see live. Tiger Woods hit a golf shot for me, and David Beckham hit a corner shot. So sports is massive growing up, huge fan. Big family, brothers and sisters?
Well, so my family comes from former East Germany. Okay. Both my dad and my mom, they came before the wall went up fully. So, which meant in my childhood, that we had 50% basically in former East Germany, the other one was in West, again, which meant that every 2 years we, the West Germans, were allowed to go over, visited my East German relatives in Chemnitz and Dresden, which was on the one hand really scary, because it was a little like the movie James Bond, Love Letter to Moscow, whatever it was called, from the 60s, when they stood, and the water, and went through there with the German shepherds, like sniffing and opening the back, the suitcases. But then also all those stories nowadays of the East German cars, East German plastic. It was a whole nostalgia now that surrounds that. I have like all my cousins are still there, but again on both sides of the curtain, of the Iron Curtain, and it's part of my background, I guess.
Do you miss home?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Do you?
No. I mean, I met, probably miss the people, right? But as far as like lifestyle, no. Like it's much the opportunity, classic cliche immigrant thing to say, right? The opportunity here is ridiculous, and the American dream is a real thing. I love being here. But
the funny thing is that nobody in my family or my friends understands that. They all kind of talk down on me, and I'm like, whatever. You don't understand.
The older I am, the more I go home, the more I understand it. Just like people, you're just the way that we grew up. I assume Jeremy is the same. It's a bubble, right? And you see the rest of the world, and no one else is the same. And but you don't want to take that leap back home. It's very hard to take that leap, right? I think people kind of always, the mentality back home is very negative for me. It was like, why try that? What if you fail?
Well, that's one thing, and then I guess a big one for me is that if one grows up in a society that all is, I guess, white, or it's all good, but if they're all Germans, it's its own thing, and it's nice, but I definitely enjoy just a little bit more diversity and a diversity of ideas, of cultures, of history, and So this is why I do not want to live in Germany anymore.
What about as fast, and as kind of big of your love, obviously, and career of music? Like, what's those earliest memories? When does that first come into play to think, what's that music thing? Like,
well, in my case, it's really interesting because I'm wondering this with others, like first sports memories, and again, I don't have this much, a little bit playing soccer on the, behind the house, With music, when I was 5 years old, my mom took me to my first opera, Hansel and Gretel, and I very distinctly remember what I kind of wore, how excited I was, but then also that Hansel and Gretel is about those two kids, the boy and the girl. And I did fall in love, literally, with Gretel. That's kind of how nerdy and ridiculous it was, but she was she was a singer on the stage. But I remember that, 5, 6, 7 years old, that was the girl I was in love with. From that opera. What? Oh my God. So those are my first memories. And then a little later, when I was 8, I think 9, I started piano when I was 6. Loved to practice every day from my 8th year on. So this is when I started to play Beethoven as a kid, and I practiced because I wanted to play the music. I wanted to do this piece by Beethoven, not because my mom told me to. And that was a big difference. So yes, and from then kind of nobody had to push me anymore. 8, 9 years old, and I kind of did it by myself.
So mum's love of music was kind of what leads you into that versus your father or your other family members?
Exactly. So so my mom, again, from East Germany, her mom sang in the opera chorus in Chemnitz. Her mom wanted to be a conductor. Her mom wanted to be have a classical career in music, but she couldn't because it was the war and stuff. So I was kind of fully immersed because of my mom's desires in that career. But I really loved it. So I never felt pushed. And I must say, I don't know, and I really did it then by myself.
Yeah.
But I must say, and I told this couple of people that just to practice every afternoon, for my mom, she needed this almost like oxygen. She kind of took those notes. She always told me, oh my God, it was so beautiful. I mean, she never pushed me to practice. Hey, another 2 hours. No. Yeah. She was like, oh, that was so beautiful. It was quite sweet, I must say.
Yeah, it is, because it's rare, right? There's a lot of people that grow up now, kids growing up, or parents that, their parents, like your grandparent, didn't have that opportunity, and they want to kind of force that on the kid and they get burnt out, We talked about soccer earlier, kids who go on traveling soccer teams at the age of 4 and 5, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world.
Right.
Why are you going to Dallas your 6-year-old to play soccer? They don't care. But when you're fortunate to be in that position that when you're 8 years old, you're like, oh, I understand this, I love it, and I don't want to do anything else. I
mean, that's I'm not sure how unique it is, or maybe other kids have that too. I had basically twice. I had this when I was 8 years old, and then I remember I played Fur-Elise, I played this other piece, The Rage Over the Lost Penny by Beethoven. Quite difficult for me. Like Beethoven writes about his rage that he lost a penny and put this into music. Okay. And so 8 years old, and I practiced. I wanted to master it. And then the next one was when I was 17, when my high school music teacher asked me in recess, hey, what do you want to be later? And I said, well, maybe piano player, pianist, or a stockbroker. And then he said, have you ever considered becoming a conductor? And that was also one of those electric moments, physical moments. Boom, that's what I'm going to be. And I did everything for myself to do that, to become that, and to go that career route. Yeah. So, kind of nice to have that push for my own personality. So that 8-year-old moment, you're practicing, coming home from school every day. How long is it before you get your first I'm performing on stage? Was it at school, or was it at something else? Yeah, that's also interesting, because I think I was 10 or 11 in high school, and where we were allowed to play something, and I was really nervous. That's kind of the thing. How do you overcome that part? Because yes, you practice, you're pretty good, but then to play in front of other people, that's a whole different story. And in my case, I remember I was always kind of spiritual. And so I asked God for help or something, literally, and did my little mini kids meditation, performed, and slowly built the stamina and the courage, literally, from 10, 11 years on, to until I auditioned for then professional music school, music college, to be kind of ready. So it's a slow process, but definitely. I remember those moments very well, sitting there when I was 10 on the piano, being nervous, but then overcoming it. So. Yeah. Take me there. What's going through your head at those moments? Do you remember the song? There were a couple. I mean, one was that Rage of the Lost Penny. I think it was 10 or 11. And it was kind of that. I remember I went to music school and that the music lesson that next morning, and I was too scared to actually do it. And my mom said, don't worry about it. Let's try again next week. I practice, and then to have that applause, that reaction, okay, you can do it. And to have the reinforcement, the positive, from your classmates, that was huge. And then slowly built the courage in a way. And that was a big thing for me, I would say. Yeah, because when you get onto that stage for the first time, that stage feels massive. Oh my gosh. Right? Yeah. And then when I was 13, I think they booked me as this wonder child at this huge hall in fits 2,000 people in Frankfurt. I performed, came up with our high high school choir, and I was the star. It was ridiculous, of course, I wasn't. But still, so it was this big moment, you know, and then the Wonder Child. And I played this piece, very nervous. I took a couple of missteps, but still, always like, oh, okay, I can do this, and then I can do this. So it's kind of a nice, slow process of developing your courage and your abilities.
You mentioned also wanting to maybe be a stockbroker, so I assume education and math was pretty good in your world?
No,
not at all.
It was more that, I don't know if you know, remember, like in Europe, I mean, there's of course the London Stock Exchange, and the other one was in Frankfurt, my hometown. And I don't know, so I was, kind of aware of that and this whole world of the stockbroker in Germany, in Frankfurt. I don't know, it was just very exciting.
Yeah, piano and money.
Yes, here we go.
The occasional football game. I love it. What was school like when you're fascinated, you're passionate about music, but did you just get by in the other classes, or did you have pressure from family to be like, no, you need to do the best in all of your classes, or you're like, I'll just get a C in these, but music is like my focus?
Well, it was a little bit that in my family we weren't so pushed. Okay. I must say, it was kind of sweet. Yeah. I was maybe a B student, not overly like good, I think. And I actually, looking back, I hated high school. Yeah. Ugh, I don't know. It was not my kind of... No. College I loved. Then I could do what I wanted. Okay. So I don't know how it was with you growing up. We had like Saturday school. We had Saturday 4 hours high school. It was kind of rough, I must say. A lot of intellectual studying. I don't know,
So you did Monday to Saturday in school and Sunday off?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
For quite a while. And again, it was lots of intellectual studying and not... and again, I was definitely more the musical kid, and
Yeah. So, do you start playing in kind of like, I'm trying to say bands. It's not bands, but like bigger groups, or are you just focusing on performing on your own on stage on piano, or are you part of a larger kind of music club, I guess?
Well, so in my world, it's kind of, in that world, it was like piano, but then I played also cello. So it was really completely the nerds, the nerdy kids. But in Germany, it was normal. Yeah. So I did play in the youth orchestras, and we did with our little ensembles of cello. We went to the pedestrian area in Frankfurt, not just once to make money, but we played there. People passing us, and again, was part of our, I guess, hobby or free time to play Saturday in the pedestrian area with my friends, cello quartets.
Okay. What leads you to cello from piano?
Because my brother played violin, and I was like, well, I don't want to do the same. Yeah. And cello is also a nice instrument.
Yeah. Do you still play?
No.
No? You still play piano?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Daily?
No, not daily, but I love it. It's great.
Yeah. It's not something that I've ever tried. I would love to. I think I get like envious when I see people on stage. Like I listen to a bit of music, I'm like, oh, that's a piano. That's really cool.
What's interesting, so my kids, I have a 16 and a 21-year-old, and I started when they were like 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, I was like, okay, let's go at it. Mm-hmm. Every day you practice. I was very German until basically when they were my oldest, when he was 7, 8 years old, and he hated it so much that I was like, okay, fine, you don't have to play anymore. It's done. But then, and I let it go. But since then, he sits on his piano, both of them on the piano. They play, film tunes. They create their own music, and because they want it, and no more push from any dad, and every day they are on the piano right now, and improvising and creating their own songs. So, and I wouldn't have expected it.
Do you get the same reaction that your mum did when they play?
I do, actually.
You do?
Oh my God, I love it so much. Yes.
That's brilliant. I love that. That's really cool. And really cool for you to be in that moment and to have them play and also to have them at 16 and 21 and just kind of have their own, like, oh, we're going to make this up and this up, and see them creatively do their thing. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. You said you didn't love high school, but you loved college. Tell me about that moment then. You mentioned about being 17. You think, stockbroker music, going to be and the person says to you, well, what about being a conductor?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it was like a miraculous moment. I don't know if others have that. I always ask that actually when I give speeches or talks. Do you guys remember when you wanted, or if you wanted a certain profession and when you had it? And was it like a distinct moment? Because for me, it was really what happened. And at that moment, then I decided that become a conductor, and I went to my music teacher. I was allowed to conduct the high school orchestra. I did my first conducting master class somewhere, and it was this whole new world that opened up. Because again, in Germany, like again, England, I guess, when you are, who were the famous stars of your childhood? It was Beckham, I guess? No.
Yeah, Ryan Giggs was from Wales, and then let's see, Tom Jones was massive, right? From a music part, as far as like sports stars.
Yeah.
I mean,
or golf, I guess.
Yeah, Tiger Woods pretty much was my era as well growing up.
But the thing, so in my world also, I grew up then with famous conductors, and I never ever thought I could ever be that. They were too far away, too far removed, too big of heroes and role models that I never can reach that. But in this case then, when my music teacher asked me, hey, what do you think? I think you should become a conductor. Just that authority figure had that idea. It's like, what? Oh my gosh, yes. And just then pursuing that route was quite, unexpected, but also really crazy exciting.
Did you have the same nerves being a conductor, even though you're only facing the team that you're conducting, the people that you're conducting, versus the crowd that's behind you?
Well, yes.
It's a totally different experience, right?
Well, it is in a way. I'm not sure what's more nerve-wracking, because if you think about it, when you have 80 musicians in front of you, they're not your regular musicians. They are all the specialists, the top in their field. Okay. So you kind of you're a teacher's teacher. And again, you have to kind of grow to that point. It's like, okay, I can do that. If you're a pianist, you have your solo evening, it's nerve-wracking, but you're responsible for yourself, great. But then again, when you are, in front of like 80 musicians, and suddenly like everybody looks at you, what is he going to hear? Did he hear this mistake? What is he, total different world. Really exciting, but also again.
Yeah. To that point, then, you have to have obviously an understanding of all 80 musicians there and the music that they're playing. How do you grow that? And was that the biggest leap for you when you go to college? Of like, when you make that decision, now you've just been focusing on cello and piano. Now you have to understand all the rest of it.
That's the thing. So a little bit, okay, what does it entail to study conducting? What does it even mean, right? Mm-hmm. In this case, there are like 3 major points, and one is simply to learn, like, okay, you get a sheet music with all the instruments of the orchestra, like right underneath each other. So sometimes it's 10 lines or 40 lines, and you have to kind of figure out, okay, what the hell does this even mean? How do you make sense of that? Right. And that kind of analysis you slowly start to grasp as I'm a student conductor. Which is different from just a piano, or a violin with 1 line. So this is huge. The other one is, of course, it's a physical thing. It's always like, if you play golf, we definitely have one thing in common. We are looking for the perfect swing. Right. And in your case, it's like one direction, and mine is like, it's basically 2 directions, left, more and then right. So both is allowed, but okay. I guess similar. It took me quite a long time to find the teacher who is aware of the muscles enough that I'm getting aware what is actually happening, that I have a relaxed swing that is guided by gravity and by the weight of the arm. Okay. I guess similar to a golf club. You don't hold it, you kind of let it flow, this whole thing. And it took quite a while to find that person to teach. And it's the second part of, I guess, of learning to study conducting. Yeah. The third one is then, of course, you learned your information, you have it in your memory, and you can move your body, and then you're in front of an orchestra. You're in front of those, let's say 40 student musicians. And so what do you do now? They play individually, and then you have to learn, okay, to match up the sound that is in your imagination with the sound that you hear real time in front of you by those 40 individuals or 70 individuals. And then zone in, okay, something wasn't right. What was it? Who was it? Was it the rhythm? Was it the sound? Was it the intonation? The color, And then figuring out that part and being able then to communicate that. Do you do this communication with just by simply your gestures, or do you say something? How do you say it? I mean, seriously, it's like this whole chess board, like a 3-dimensional chess, or 4-dimensional with time included, the timeline. Yeah, it's quite complex and fun.
But because of your kind of drive and love and passion and what you said earlier as a kid, trying to figure out the hardest things for you to play, you just looked at this and thought, oh, this is brilliant. Like, I'm in, right? Like, I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to love doing it.
Well, so that's in a way, yes. And I guess here it goes more psychological in a way. Okay, one has to be a certain psychological makeup to enjoy it, right? And I cannot be too much of an introvert.
Right, yeah.
I cannot, so it has to be somewhat extroverted, enjoy the music itself. If I would be a country lover, I mean, of course, it has to be that repertoire, and I love that repertoire, those pieces, right? It was like crazy exciting. And then communicate this with a group of people. So you're on the one hand leader, a one person, but you only can make it happen with those 70 musicians around you. So it's a big teamwork. And the whole thing was completely my psychological makeup in a way.
Yeah.
But I didn't know at the beginning. I mean, it just turned out, oh my gosh, that is exactly what I am in a way. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of just, being in a position and being fortunate to chase the passion that you love, right? Like, whether it's mum, taking you to, when you're 5 to that spot, like when you look back at your life and your story, like there's all these points where you're like, I'm so grateful for that, because otherwise maybe you could be doing something completely different, right? And where would we wouldn't be here today. The thing that fascinates me, and it's because I have very little to none knowledge of, the profession that you're in. I had no idea that what you just mentioned about the swing.
Yes.
Now it makes total sense, but like, to have to understand, and I watched you and others perform that way too, and I've, from someone who doesn't understand music as much as you do, it just looks like you're swinging your arms, and there's something to do with it, but I didn't understand it's as in depth as you just explained.
Well, it's extremely, every bizarre movement that you see a conductor do in this case, at least in my case, every moment it is communicating something specific that I feel and am aware of in my mind and in my emotional body. So there's nothing random, ever. And in my case, there is another level. So we talked about those 3 levels that I'm kind of learning as a conductor. From learning the music, the dots on the page, the gesture, then communicating this with an orchestra. Then there is another level that comes then during the performance. And here, back to this idea of, that nothing is random. In the performance, what I'm trying to do is to recreate it new. So there are lots of conductors, you like in a theater, you rehearse it, and then exactly how you rehearsed it, that's how you then perform it. You create a blueprint, and that, like of a car or whatever, and boom, 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 boom. And very technical, you recreate it each time the same. Great. In my case, each time the goal is, the value, the virtue is to be a little different, to be anew. And how one does that is that you change the tempo, you speed it up, you're not set, and you create the story in the moment anew, like with your focus, with how you shape the speed of the music, how long you rest in the moments of silence, and be there as if it's the very first time. That means then that every gesture again has to be completely tuned to that storytelling and is never random, but completely in tune with that momentary in the zone storytelling.
Yeah.
It's
to me it's fascinating, and I can see why every time you love you doing it, it's a new challenge, right? But you love doing it, and you've been doing it for so long, and then you build, you got, like I said, 40 or 70 musicians there that are arguably the best in their field in that current area. where do you go to university, and what was the specific, I guess, course that you dove into, and was university a 4-year or a 3 university as well?
So in my case, I studied in Germany. I got going there, had 2 majors: piano performance and conducting. But I knew that I had to get out of there. So in Germany, it's free, and all good. And there's some great universities, some great teachers. But in the conducting world, worldwide, there are 2 ways of becoming a conductor. There's the more classical, let's say, German way, where you go through an opera house, where you play piano, you are a coach, and it's not so much about the conducting gesture, it is more about learning the operas and then starting at the bottom with an opera house and then learn by doing. But you are fantastic on the piano. And the other way is really then more the Anglo-Saxon way, like England, Finland, America. It's not so much about the opera house, but it's about the conducting gesture. The goal is to become an assistant conductor of a symphony orchestra, symphonic music. And again, very different. Now, in my case, that means that in Germany, our universities don't really have feature a orchestra for the conducting students. So we learn by never actually getting into a plane and taking off, like flying the actual plane. We're always on the ground, in a simulator and in front of 2 pianos. So that was kind of the problem. When I got out and moved to Baltimore, they had a fantastic conducting program, and we had 2 evenings a week of full symphony orchestra for the students. So just imagine that. What a paradise. We did everything, and they were right there, and I couldn't believe it, actually. What a fantastic education I got here in America. So that was a big difference. So I got my master's here in Baltimore.
Okay.
My performance diploma, and but then still, it's very, again, interesting. So still didn't really know, after 7 years, 5 in Germany, 2 in here, still didn't really know how to conduct an orchestra. Then went to Tanglewood. It's the Summerfest of the Boston Symphony, and they have a conducting fellowship, which is quite prestigious. So I became there, had a fantastic teacher, and that's after 7 years, I finally learned how to conduct. So
pretty long
time story. Yes.
Yeah. So how do you pick Baltimore? How does that come about?
Well, it's a little bit, I guess, I got a scholarship, but worldwide they had a very famous teacher.
Okay.
And which is also interesting if you think about what is a performing artist, what do? We kind of are not writing our own songs necessarily, maybe, but in my case I don't. And you recreate something. And in Germany, in the old countries, you have to be really true to, let's say, the composers or the Beethoven, whatever, the classical composers. So you try to be as close to what that composer wanted as possible. That's kind of the goal. And it was quite limiting. That teacher in Baltimore, that American teacher, Frederick Prausnitz, my kind of guru, my mentor, he was all about to find your own voice, to be myself, which I was never asked to be before. And what does this mean? To find my own voice? What? Yeah. But I'm just conducting somebody who is dead since 200 years. How do you want to find me my own voice? But that was exactly, he stopped you when he sensed when you conducted those, there were 40 students, he was like, stop! You don't have an image. He was like, image? I was like, what do you mean? I don't feel that it's you, Alexander. It's not you. You're not having a vision. You don't have your voice, and you have to kind of find your voice. And it was like revolutionary. What does this mean? How to do this then when you're in the moment conducting? But that's what I learned. And nobody did this in Germany. It was completely, wow. Anyway, so yes, that's the question. How do you do it? How do you create that emotional connection that it's suddenly your piece? It is your role, like an actor. You become that role in a movie. It's not anymore whatever Brad Pitt. No, it is suddenly whatever the movie character, and that's what that was the goal, to become that, and that's what's kind of exciting, and to do this and in a real lifetime performance with professionals.
Is your mentor still alive?
No, he passed on quite a while ago.
Okay, I say, because that would still be able to touch base with him would be really cool.
It would be so nice.
Did you come to Baltimore solo? Did you have friends come with you? Did you know anyone else when you got here?
In this case, I came alone, although I came because of my then-time girlfriend. And it was amazing just to, come to America and have one person at least I knew, at that time was wonderful and a great. I just loved it so much to be in America also.
How were you, late 20s, mid-late 20s?
Mid-20s.
So you get here, you have, this amazing mentor is trying to tell you to, do something that you've not been taught or has not even been in your realm of possibilities your entire life, but to find your own personal voice. Yeah. And you feel like you've kind of been unlocked maybe for the first time.
Totally.
You do 2 years there. Where do you transition after that? And since you're here, are you thinking, I have to stay here, or I have to stay on this side of the world, I don't want to go back to Europe? Like, were you thinking, this is my place now?
I mean, for me, it was quite extreme, I must say, because I got married at that time, and but it was also the whole lifestyle. Oh my God, I loved America. I still do. Yeah. Despite all what one said, what big problems, but I never could live back in Europe. It's nice to visit, but there's something about that one, I guess, only feels if you're a longer time in a certain country. That is, I don't know, it is more judgmental over there, I feel. It is more limiting. And here, gosh, I don't know. Living in Baltimore at that time, just this little town, Baltimore, it's not, it's not New York. I felt like, I felt in paradise. And then moved to New York City. It was absolutely amazing. Never would have thought to go back to Europe ever. And just also from the career path, that's more than the career path I knew about, that you become a symphony orchestra conductor, assistant conductor. There was this whole career path in North America that wasn't there in Europe for me, for anybody. Yeah.
And that's specifically you said on the Philharmonic side of things?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, why New York? What gets you to New York? Was there, because I guess once you graduate your master's, then you're trying to find to be an assistant somewhere. Yeah. That's the next step.
Well, I was lucky. At that time, girlfriend, wife lived in New York City. Okay. And this always just also, personally great, but you couldn't find a better place to move to. I was obsessive with calling and going to literally every orchestra and opera company in the tri-state area. There was a little bit, computer, you called, you went there. I was just like a hound. Like literally, I remember I stood at the doors, at the rehearsal doors, tried to talk with her. Hey, excuse me, are you the maestro? And I waited for the conductor to walk out and talk with him. I was obnoxious. Yeah. And slowly, knock in so many doors that then I became like a assistant conductor of a small orchestra, or had my own youth orchestra, all those little things, just by sheer being so obnoxious, okay, here, Mickelthwate, you get the job, just leave us alone. I'm kidding a little bit, but still, it was that kind of, yeah.
I don't feel like anyone does that today, right? I think that's been lost. The kids growing up now, that they don't. If you told someone that to go do that now, so they're 25 years old, hey, what's your dream job? Great, right? Go knock on doors until you get it. Yeah. They'd probably.
Well, I teach that. I have private students, and I'm so I guess in my world, I'm almost like you have to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. I create my own ensembles. I create my own opera company. Everything just to conduct, to do anything I could. Yeah.
Where does that come from? Does that come from anyone in your family?
That's a good question. I don't know. There's something English, again, that gentleman, John Mickelthwate, 1847, was a little bit adventurous, moving from Sheffield to Leipzig, to Germany. I'm sure there's something in the blood that I needed to get out, and I had to get going.
Who did you look up to as a kid?
Oh.
Is there any entrepreneurs that you're like, I want to go do that?
Well, as a kid, not so much. It was more than I remember. It was more conductors, I guess, at some point. Actually, cello players. There were some famous cello players, soloist Pablo Casals and Rostropovich, that I don't know, I was just like in awe of, because I played cello, right? And then it was more conductors, but never like at some point it was Steve Jobs, or Johnny Ive, just from the culture and from the mindset, how liberating it was and how powerful what they created, artistically also. And at that time it was definitely more the conductor, Karajan or Bernstein, or certain German conductors that one maybe doesn't know here, Furtwängler, like the music director of the Berlin Philharmonic in the 40s, 50s, and I absolutely revered the guy. So,
Yeah, so you're like a dog with a bone, trying to get your job, trying to get your foot in the door, just knocking doors,
totally
talking to anyone you can talk to. Totally. And then someone says, okay, finally take over, giving you a chance.
Well, I remember actually, so I went after this conductor of the American Symphony Orchestra, Leon Botstein. He was the president of Bard College. Okay. He knew George Soros quite well, and he was the music director of that particular symphony, American Symphony Orchestra. And so I applied, I sent a letter, I went to a rehearsal, and I mean, one Saturday afternoon, my phone rings, and I'm like, yeah, hello. And it's like, yeah, this is Leon Botstein. And I almost can't breathe. I cannot believe the guy is calling me and inviting me to attend one of his rehearsals. So this kind of thing, and then slowly making my way up the ladder.
Yeah. What were your favorite kind of musical memories from New York?
Well,
or any good or bad stories stand out? Any big moments in your life?
Well, so it started, like in my first year, I immediately, tried to become a busboy, but then also applied for opera. Like I tried everything, right? And one was different opera positions as a piano player. And I applied for the Garden State Opera Company in New Jersey, which was conducted by Anton Coppola, who was the uncle of Francis Ford Coppola, who actually Anton Coppola conducted in The Godfather, in one of those wedding scenes. You see him in the background. He's one of those very small Italian geniuses who does everything by memory. And he was already at that time in his 80s.
Wizard.
And I didn't know what it means really to be a professional, pianist or musician. So they picked me as their pianist. And the task was, I was invited to play the opera Carmen. And it's a famous opera, not too difficult, I thought, and I practiced. And I thought I'm prepared. And there was a rehearsal, whatever, finally one day, and we drove down to New Jersey. And in this case, I sat actually in the passenger seat next to we were two people, Anton Coppola and me, in the passenger seat with one seat belt. I was right next to this guy. It was really bizarre. Anyway, so we go to this house, rehearse, and the thing was we ran the whole opera. He conducts everything from memory. The musicians are singing, the singers are there, and I'm supposed to play the whole thing. First act was okay, it was 3 acts. Second act, I'm kind of starting to break in. Third act, I just can't play it really. And, well, it's needless to say that it was extremely embarrassing. And anyway, so next day I'm getting the call, you're fired. My first job, play, second day, fired. But it was one of those, right? It's one of those experiences, it wakes you up 100,000%, and you're like, okay, got it, boom. I have to be so 500% prepared for anything. But again, you don't, I didn't know. Oh yeah, you know, but you should know, and then you have this experience, and then you know for the rest of your life. Yeah. New York City, yes.
Wow. Yeah, cutthroat, right?
Cutthroat.
But it's a wake-up call that you're like, hey, I need to get better. I need to learn. I need to do this. And
totally.
I'm not going to succeed if I don't, because the alternative is go back home, which you definitely don't want to do that.
Don't want to do that. And then I have some beautiful experiences, of course, also, and great performance with New York Philharmonic. I was a doorman for one summer just to get for free into the concerts. So I was a doorman, take an usher.
Yeah.
It was really fun. And anyway, so then watched a whole bunch of performances there, and like amazing stuff that I wasn't aware of that existed, with the Philharmonic. And yeah.
Do you have a favorite, like if you're not playing, you just want to go see something? Do you have do you kind of stay within like your world, or do you go out and like try and learn and listen to other genres music, or do you just like, hey, if I have a free night, I'm gonna go and enjoy myself and sit and take it in?
Well, in this case, at that time, it was because it's such a huge field with classical music. It's just was classical. Then in later years, very much so. Like in my previous music director position in Winnipeg, we had a new music festival of classical living composers. Every end of January, like 7 evenings, living classical symphonic composers.
Yeah.
And the range is crazy, like very wide. And here it's more that a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, opened me to several new like genres, let's say. And one was this Icelandic, like the world of Icelandic music. I had no idea. And boy, it's like magical. And I went to Iceland then, and it's all crossover more. It's not just like your classical symphony. No, it's like Sigur Rós, they're like Björk, of course, all those kind of in-between composers that create just because they're creative. And I didn't know. Yeah. And so I started to listen, invite people, and then create a whole, also program differently then, what was allowed in my world and what was not allowed. Everything, more things were allowed.
Do you go from New York to Winnipeg, or is there something in between?
So I was lucky. My first professional job was with the Atlanta Symphony.
Okay.
For 3 years assistant conductor. It was kind of the first time, you get out of your, New York bubble, I guess, and you apply for professional full-time orchestra as an assistant conductor, like 260 applicants, and you get invited for the audition, prepare like crazy, and then got taken. It was just a miracle. And then from there went to LA, Philharmonic, same thing, again, what's the next step after 3 years? And then got invited for the LA Philharmonic assistant position. And it was like giddy to be taken as their new assistant conductor for 3 years. Yeah. And then after this went to Canada, to Winnipeg.
Is it common to spend 3 years as an assistant and then move on? Or is that like you're kind of like 2 years in, you're like, okay, I need to start planning. I'm going to leave in a year and start applying to others? Yeah,
it's interesting. I'm not sure it's in other cases. I mean, there are many orchestras that leave where the assistant, the resident, can stay longer. In those cases, I don't know why. It was always 2 + 1 year. Yeah. And I knew I was kicked out no matter what. And I had to find something. It was really annoying, but also really good at the end.
Yeah. So because you get to see the country, but also different culture and meet different people, and it's not easy moving every 3 years, especially New York, Atlanta to LA, and then up to Winnipeg.
Yeah, but it kind of kept me going, and otherwise I was stuck around, and in this case I had to move. Yeah.
How does Oklahoma City end up on your radar from Winnipeg? It's not something that stands out.
It's one of those things, right? In my world, then there's only one symphony orchestra per city.
Yeah,
it's not that there's a huge amount of orchestras to pick from. Then from those orchestras, not too many are looking for a music director. And then in my world, and in my case, it has to fit a little bit the personality. I have a family. I had family. I wanted both. Lots of music directors of the really big ones. Like LA Philharmonic, New York Philharmonic. That's all they do. It's great. They travel around the world. I tried this a little bit, but it's also really stressful, and it was not my kind of thing. So to find something that is a good thing in between where one is free and creative, but where I can have a family. It didn't open up too often. So at some point in my Winnipeg tenure, I was like, okay, let's start to look a little bit, you know. And I was in a whole bunch of searches, and this one here opened up. Didn't know too much about Oklahoma. Actually, really nothing, to be honest.
Yeah.
But when this opened up, I was saying, oh, interesting. This gentleman here, the music director, was here for 30 years. Joe Levine is a really solid position, and they're doing great stuff. And it's a bigger city. It's not too small. So it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Let's really try to get that. And it was 2016, basically 2016, 17. And then they invite 6 candidates, right? From a whole, I don't know how many applied, lots of people. 6 got the invitation, which is a huge thing. And you get 1 week with the orchestra, 1 week. We have to convince everybody, the musicians, the board, the public. And and I was really excited, I must say. I had a great program, and lucky, I guess. And in this case, it's a little bit like a blind date, not with one person, but with 80 people. Like literally, you don't know them. It's like, okay, what do you say first?
Yeah.
And it was just really well. Okay. I guess mutually, really fun.
Yeah. Was there anything that stood out when you first visited, outside of the music?
Well, what stood out? 2 things. First was that, I mean, Oklahoma is Oklahoma, you know. It's not New York, it's not LA. And I was excited, but also didn't know what to expect. And a little cautious. And from landing here in Oklahoma, it was obvious that the arts organizations were very progressive. And there was, from the arts organizations, not only the Philharmonic, you know, they were all, could be in New York, a very progressive, very liberal, but in the sense more also from the programming, from the people that work here. And I felt right away completely at home. The second thing was that the program I picked was not easy. It was like a piece by Rachmaninoff, like a famous Russian composer, Rachmaninoff, his 3rd symphony. That is not done a lot. I don't know if they ever did it here. And I know that the music director at that time, Joe Levine, he told me afterwards, he saw my program, was like, well, I'll see how he is going to manage that. He was a little dubious, you know. We'll see, you know.
It's a bold move.
It's a little bold, you know. Really, Maestro? All right, we'll see, you know. But it was really fun, and they totally rose to the occasion and it was like this, you know, hit the ball of the ballpark. But I didn't know. Nobody knew. Yeah. And it felt really great what they're capable of. So it was fantastic to know that. And the third one, again, you never know. It's also the audience. And I don't know what it is, but the audience here is extremely exuberant and knowledgeable and reacts just really good to classical music. And I didn't know this either. So, it was several unexpected things that made it very inviting for me.
Yeah. What time of year did you visit?
November.
Okay, so it wasn't freezing cold, but it also wasn't 1,000 degrees outside.
Yeah,
so you didn't get the humidity. This is the perfect time to visit, especially from up north.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So you were here for a week to do that.
Yeah.
And then how long did it take for them to say, okay, do you want a job?
Well, that's the thing. So I was the second candidate. They had 4 more to go, you know, and it took then until April, I think, until they finally called me. It's a long way to wait. A little annoying, but that's what it is. I knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, you make the transition down here and find a place to live. And not only do you know, kind of understand the music culture, but the greater life in Oklahoma City, right? Like you get to take it all in. And, you know, 2017, 2018, the city, even now the city's growing, but it's totally different, right?
Yeah, totally. It's like, in this case, also more a big positive surprise because, I mean, I loved Winnipeg. It was Canada, you know, it was the right thing at the right time to live there in this little prairie town north of Fargo. And actually, I always joked with my friends where I would get a job and that I would not go, is there something beyond Fargo? Well, I never would go so far, you know, and then I get Winnipeg. But it was artistically fantastic. Anyway, so Winnipeg doesn't have, for example, a highway system. It doesn't need one. It's so isolated, you know. So back to Oklahoma, how it was the move. Well, I did move from Winnipeg to Oklahoma. And 2017, 2018, I went back and forth. And I kid you not, I don't know how it was for you. I felt like I don't know, when you're newly married, you know, and everything is just rosy. And it was like that. Every time I was driving on a highway here, I was just like laughing. And I was so happy. I mean, it always depends on where you come from. You know, it's I couldn't believe, oh my God, I'm so grateful they have highways.
The little things, right? That's so good, though.
Yeah. And they have a Trader Joe's. And then a Whole Foods. Anyway, so it was quite fun.
Yeah. And so this has been home since then, right? And you've kind of
I mean, fully since like 3.5 years now, 2021.
Okay. Yeah. What's been, I guess, some of your... what do you think's been some of your biggest accomplishments since you've been here, and what are you most proud of as far as just like the organization?
So, yeah, great question. So, in a way, the last month, November, was, I guess, being a music director, my most exhilarating month ever. What we did was we started, I was conducting the ABBA show, our opening Corps concert. I'm always dressing up now. It was just really fun. I mean, you know, everybody loves ABBA. Then we performed for this Thunder for Veterans Day, just to remember, you know, the fallen. And it was completely different, but also very heartfelt. The next day, we performed for the Joseph Harp Correctional Facility. We went into prison, performed for 240 inmates in their jumpsuits. One of the most intense, beautiful experiences that I had in my life. It was so quiet. They were so appreciative. People were like having tears in their eyes. It was completely personal, and it was like a transformative. I mean, people still write us right now how transformative it was. And to do this here in Oklahoma, like, what? But yes, you know, and I worked with the Minister of Public Safety, Trisha Everest. We're good friends. And the warden there is fantastic. I mean, you would never expect that, right? But I mean, I'm very, very proud of that. Then we had our concert where I wore a kilt.
Traditionally as well.
Traditional kilt.
Very cold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Highlands, from the Highlands, we did music with bagpipe and orchestra. Again, never thought of this. It was sold out. Classical concert, completely sold out. Really proud of that. To connect so much with the audience. Sorry, I have to go on a little longer. Then we did a concert for the Jewish community here. Very, very beautiful. There's an organization called the Oklahoma Jewish Exchange that actually promotes businesses, politicians to visit Jerusalem, to visit Israel. I mean, right now it's a little difficult, but to build understanding by cultural exchange, by creating friends, you know, and it's so beautiful. So we performed for that organization, and music with dance, and again, something where music really united the cultures. And the next evening, one more. It was all about Native Americans, and this is I'm also really, really proud of, to having fostered the connection with different tribes in Oklahoma: Chickasaw, Choctaw, Cherokee. And not only this, but commissioning Native American composers to write new works, storytelling through music, their stories through their words and their music, and premiering it here. So that was extremely meaningful concert. And then looking ahead a little bit to April now, we have a world premiere by Jared Tate, Chickasaw composer, American Indian Symphony, a piece that doesn't exist yet, but also a genre, like a title that doesn't exist yet, where the composer trying to reflect not only one tribe, but the 6 different regions in North America, different regions that are commonly accepted of Native Americans and their cultures. And so it will be premiered in April, and I hope to record it. And it's a national event for me, not just like an Oklahoma event. It's our voice, it's the Native American voice of that Native American composer. And to having fostered those relations is really awesome. And doesn't really happen a lot worldwide. So we're finding our own niche, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and my next question, you kind of answered it a little bit, but I'd love to hear you dive in more on it, is like, you've been doing this for quite some time now, and it's how do you keep pushing the boundaries? How do you keep raising the bar? How do you keep it how do you keep up your enthusiasm to not just keep doing the same stuff, right? And the Native American thing is clearly one of those options. Is there anything else that stood out, or just ways that you like, let's try this, let's do this within the confines, obviously, of, your industry?
Well, I mean, one big one is really just the classical concerts itself, that it's not just like a random selection of like a Beethoven and a French piece and whatever, which is done like normally, traditionally, it's not so much about forging a program that is cohesive in itself and interesting. So, and then my thing is that each program, not every time, but that we have, for example, a program 2019 that is surrounded, that key piece is the film music of the life of Pi. That book that plays on the ocean with a tiger in the boat, it's like, what? But the point is that the film music won the Oscar. Michael Dana won the Oscar for it. It's more world music. It features East Indian musicians, South Asian musicians, and it was, I don't know, I thought that would be wonderful to feature this in a regular classics concert, and then to match it up with other music about the ocean, about travel, about voyages. So we did Debussy La Mer, that famous piece about the ocean, and we did a work by a living Sri Lankan composer that is called Spiritual Journey, Yantra. I'm just saying, so in itself, each concert, I'm trying to find something current, and or music by a Radiohead composer, Johnny Greenwood. Something that worked then together with The Rite of Spring, Stravinsky's piece, and suddenly it's not a program from 100 years ago, but I made it current, to find those linkages that people that don't usually come to a classical concert understand. So that is a big thing, how to create something that is meaningful with people that are dead since a long time in our time.
Yeah.
So this will always continue. But then, yes, the prison thing we want to continue that. Native American is a huge one. Other cultures always like a different voice and extremely exciting. And the idea is to hopefully travel at some point and to bring this out, or to record more and have people be aware of us.
Yeah. I related to kind of Indian music and just kind of that area of the world. A mutual friend of ours tells me that it is a life goal and mission of yours to bring Bollywood music to Oklahoma City.
Well, that's very funny. Yes. Although to some degree we had Carnatic music, which is not Bollywood, but this Bombay Jayashree from Bombay actually came here for this Life of Pi. But yes, I do want Bollywood music with the symphony orchestra at some point.
DG snarling and sniggering, laughing his head off listening to that. That's the one thing he told me to ask you today.
That's funny.
Finishing up, what do you like to do for fun when you get to have a day off? What's your vices? What do you want to do? What's just like, relaxing?
What's relaxing? Well, I don't know. It's like fun. First of all, I do love it's totally nerdy, but I love to read. I mean, it's so simple. I finally went skiing in last March in Bear Valley in California, where I have my other festival. And just to, I don't know, it was so amazing to stand on skis again, which I haven't done for 30 years. And just going downhill, very simple, and not to break anything, you know, but it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Going biking, there's so many things that I kind of would like to do more, to be honest. I love to cook and to have like different, I mean, just to be constantly inventive. With my 16-year-old, he loves to cook. So we kind of do this together, like weird stuff like this, you know. I do love to meditate in a deep fashion and just sit there and sit and trying to find my inner peace and my bliss factor, where I'm just, you know, I feel more like a monk or something. I totally love doing that. Anyway, there's a whole bunch.
How do you, back on the meditation part, just sit in silence and like, do you follow like an app, a book? Like, how do you? Because I know there's a lot of people probably listening that could take a lot of value from that and maybe need to do it themselves. How do you get yourself into that place of Zen and peace?
Great question. I mean, there's a whole podcast for itself, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's more like, what are those little tools to kind of quiet your mind, and not only quiet the mind, but then also come to a emotional state of inner peace. And that's the big question for me. Not just to be intellectually aware, that's what I have to do. Listen to my breath, listen to the breathing. That's great, you know, but then what? So what I did there's this book, The Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda. Mm-hmm. This famous book. That guru started a organization, the Self-Realization Fellowship. And I did those meditation exercises for quite a while. With the outcome that I had those bizarre opening up experiences of my brain, where suddenly your awareness, you're not aware of the room, you suddenly become aware of the house and the city. It's hard to explain, but I had like a physical reaction to it. By just doing those breathing exercises, those Kriya Yoga exercises. But now, I mean, that's one thing, but it was not so satisfying for me. So it's more to go more into almost psychoanalysis, where I'm listening to my subconscious and delve deeper into it and try to clean up from my past and write a lot, and then slowly. There's certain meditation, like mantras almost, that open me up emotionally, where I'm just slowly starting to sit in peace. Anyway, so it's quite beautiful, but it's a longer conversation.
Yeah, that's why you're right. We could do a whole podcast on, you know, inner peace and finding your, all of that, because it just keeps opening doors, right? Yes. You know, when you go down that path, right, it's never ending, because there's always a why question generally, until you find that, which, you know, it's a lifelong kind of journey, and you know, fortunately, some of us get this, some of us don't. You mentioned cooking. Any favorites?
Well,
what are you cooking right now? What was this week's challenge?
No, it's more that I have all those. I have the dad's famous noodle dish. You know, it's just stupid. It's not. But I have my secret sauce. You know, with like chicken broth and lemon, and I don't know. It's just this whole thing with noodles and broccoli, but it's so yummy. Mm-hmm. It's more kind of this kind of thing, you know, and whatever it is. And my dad's favorite chili. And to the point, last week I made chili, and then the kids ate it so fast I couldn't actually eat it because it was already done after 2 days. I was like, guys, you ate my chili. So I made it again this week, and I had to stop my kid from my oldest, like, okay, this is my chili now. No, literally. So it's like, it's all good. But there's so many of those kind of dishes that
Have you performed with the kids yet? Have they performed with you, or is that a goal? Would they do that with dad?
That's a good question. No, have not, and I don't know if they ever will. What I did, I conducted a rehearsal. Actually, I have not, because my youngest goes to Klassen, so I went several times to conduct their orchestra, but he's playing saxophone in the band, so I haven't even done that yet, which is a goal a little bit.
Yeah, that's to come. Well, brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Love the stories. Love how, you know, just the the emotion that your passion and your profession brings out in you, and the love that you have for it, the dedication you have for it, the enthusiasm you still have for it, and love that. So for people listening, I'll put the link to OKC Philharmonic. They go check out what's coming, how to get involved, how to come see you, and the entire orchestra do their thing.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to talk with you, Mike.
Yeah. For people listening, we'll catch you next episode. Cheers.
Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by the Doghouse OKC. Recently, I have been in need of some doggy daycare for my 2 pups, and the Doghouse have come in clutch. The team over there are incredible. They've taken care of my 2 golden doodles, and so it's been an honor to partner with them on the podcast and share the love. And the one thing that I do with the sponsors that I have is stuff that I use and recommend, like the Diffies with my car, Hall of Fame. They're awesome. Chickasaw Nation, huge supporter of Oklahoma. And adding to that is the Doghouse. And so if you're in need of doggy daycare in the day or boarding overnight, they do grooming and other cool things too. But I've had a fantastic experience, and it's an honor and a privilege to share this with you too. So go to thedogHouseOKC.com and follow them on Instagram at thedogHouseOKC. And hopefully our pups will run into each other.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This Is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.